Awesome. Well, hi everybody. I'm Jane. I'm here in my home office in Denver, Colorado, where I started the brand and started the business right at the dawn of adult use cannabis legalization in 2014. Since then, I created an event series and started the largest professional networking group in the cannabis industry called Women Grow. That was what I spent my first 3 years doing. And then after that, I switched to start making actual products and branded products and home goods and accessories, because that's what we call items you previously called paraphernalia, which are used for use with illegal activities, but in legal states, they're home goods and accessories. So we have a glassware line that people have for use around their home. We have a travel collection that you can use on the go. It's a modern dugout. And then now we also have partners in 10 states where we sell branded cannabis flower. So there's a lot of different things that the brand is doing and expanding into this super exciting market. And I'm excited to answer all your questions.
Awesome. Thank you guys again, by the way, for submitting all your questions. I think we had over like 40, 50, 60?
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
Good questions. Very good questions.
Exactly. So we molded them really to make the most out of this webinar. So we're really going to break it down into 3 aspects. One is just the founder journey in general. The second one is more about the cannabis industry, pre and post COVID, all of the aspects around that. And then the third one is fundraising and the process and the journey that, Jane has taken. So starting from the first bit with the founder journey, right? Like, what was your inspiration for starting Jane West? And, how did you get funding to start your business?
Well, the first 2.5 years of building the brand Jane West, I wasn't actually seeking funding. My first endeavor in the cannabis industry was a company called Edible Events, where we were going to gather people together for social use. I mean, I'm a daily cannabis consumer, and at the dawn of real legalization here in Colorado, I believed that people would want to attend high-end events on a weekend night where they're going to be able to use cannabis together. It is a very social substance. And so I started this event series that became very newsworthy because the city wanted to shut it down because it was a bit ahead of its time. Like, we still don't have actual legal social use in the states that have legalized cannabis use. There's not a place adults can go, gather together and consume. So the event series put me in the news. A SWAT team shut down the last one. That was in the news. And my corporate, yes. So they were cocktail parties on one night a month. So it really was like a fun side project. But then when my employer spotted me on television at one of the events, I also was asked to leave my full-time corporate job that I'd been at 8 years. So wow. That was another pretty big news story. All that happened in 2014. So within my first 8 months in the cannabis industry, I had started an event planning company that became quite notorious. We actually did an event at Red Rocks with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra called On a High Note. And there was a big movement behind it, and then there was a big movement to put an end to it. And either way, I was in the middle as this media darling speaking out to the importance of social use. And so I built that platform, but it became clear that events were not going to be something that the city or state was going to allow for any time, and it wasn't a viable business option. But a lot of women from all over the world had been reaching out to me throughout the first half of 2014 saying, I want to do what you do. I want to be in the industry. How do I get in? How do I get involved? And at the time, honestly, I was like, I don't know. I'm not doing this very well. The company I started isn't legally viable. I'm not a cannabis grower. And so, but I do have my master's degree in social work, and I'd spent my previous career in community organization. And so I pivoted and started Women Grow. So Women Grow is a professional networking group designed to connect women on a local level, because really cannabis legalization is a local issue. What your government in your state, in your county says, that's who gets licenses, what times they're open, what kind of products they can sell. So we started organizing women on a local level with Women Grow. And we've been in over 40 cities, over 250,000 people have attended Women Grow networking events since we started. It's still a huge group within the space. And so that was what I did for the second 2 years. And both those things together really built a certain notoriety around the brand and the brand name. And I earned a lot of media from that time that also kept my name, my brand name, Jane West, in the top of all the search browsers when people were searching women, cannabis, or anything along those lines. And so that's what really made me pivot in 2016 to start truly building a brand with real products behind it, behind the name. So, wait.
Wow, that's amazing. Sorry, I was trying to say something, but I couldn't find the mute button.
I know it's hard to do all the things at once when people are typing in the, I know, you're like, whoop.
Exactly, but definitely, that's an amazing story. I had no idea that it takes, it took the SWAT teams and, all these different factors to come in to really allow you to propel yourself to say, hey, there is a lot of demand and, this should be something that exists and you're going to do it. So you were kind of in a good spot there.
It also was like a question that someone else had asked about social justice issues. I really did start a cannabis event company because I thought it would be fun. It would speak to my my passion behind cannabis and gathering people together. But I certainly wasn't at the time as concerned about the legal nature of what I was doing. And because I did receive criminal charges, because I did have court dates, because the goal was to put me on probation. So if I ever held an event again, they could just come shut it down and arrest me.
Okay.
And it really taught me a lot about how remarkably unjust and unfair and in so many ways arbitrary so many laws are around cannabis and cannabis use, and having all those court dates at the Denver City and County building really opened my eyes to also how unjust it was. I was always the only Caucasian woman there being held for all of these, for my charges, and I was there 4 to 5 times. And so it was an interesting, there were so many things that happened at once in 2014, but having these serious issues with the legal authorities really opened my eyes to a lot of injustices of the drug war and really got me tuned in. I started working with groups like SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, which is on 300 college campuses around the world. I've started to really have the right talking points to talk about the war on drugs and cannabis, which has to be integrated in any legalization efforts.
Exactly. And so in that same vein, how has activism really played a part in building Jane West?
Well, in every year it kind of evolves a little bit more. In the beginning, I was mostly just learning a lot about the war on drugs and how it was really a war on people and how unjust the system really was. Now, here, 5 years later, there's so many ways that you need to take those learnings and start immediately applying them so that we're rectifying some of those issues. For instance, in some states, if you have absolutely any criminal charge related to drugs, you can't get a job in the industry. That's nonsensical. And the majority of states who already have legalized, there's no expungement language in any of the regulations. So you're issuing licenses for a booming business while people are still sitting in jail for crimes that are now legal and people are being issued license to. And these are the type of important talking points that just as the rest of the states legalize and as we go back and fix some of the things we didn't do quite right in the states that are now no longer have prohibition, we just need to really stay hyper aware of, especially now that there's so much money and interest in mainly. Before, I feel like at the very beginning, everyone was working together to just legalize, to get that first domino over. And now people have their own individual, needs that they're looking out for. And a lot of these bigger social justice issues fall to the wayside.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so going back to more about Jane West itself, in a crowded market like cannabis, how do you stand out in marketing, even if you might have the superior brand quality, all of that? How do you really stand out?
So in my opinion, it really is about getting your products in customers' hands. There are so many different ways that starting a business in the cannabis industry is unique. And one of those, most importantly, is the complete lack of traditional marketing and advertising that we have as cannabis businesses. You cannot just place an ad on Facebook that is remotely related to a cannabis brand, you will get your social media accounts shut down numerous times while you're trying to build a brand. And you're going to face other challenges that simply don't exist in other, startup industries. And as such, I don't recommend trying to fight that. And because I haven't seen even some of the biggest brands like Willie's Reserve, had their account shut down at times. What you need to do is try to focus on getting your brand and your product in customers' hands. Because additionally, cannabis products, they're psychoactive products that people want to try. They want to feel better. They want to see like the effects of it. And ultimately, no matter how pretty your logo is or how, how much advanced marketing you even could get in front of some eyeballs, which is very challenging to do. In many states and in places like in many countries like Canada, there's 0 places where you can get up a billboard or a sign or magazine or advertising on TV or anything like that at all. So you have to really be creative. And ultimately, you're looking for customers to purchase your products and come back and purchase your products again and again. And so the most important spot for a THC infused product to be is right in front of the customer at the dispensary and at the store with informed budtenders that are giving the right information about the product. Because there really isn't anywhere else to find it. Third-party services that rate products and rate cannabis brands, a lot of them are pay to play. And so the information isn't necessarily verifiable and reliable. And so customers are out there, they're super curious. They want new products. They want new effects. They're there at the dispensary to buy something that makes them feel better. And so you need to be able to get your products in their hands, stand out right there in the store, and then provide the intended effects that will have them coming back for more. But you do find, especially in cannabis, that the repeat customer numbers are very high. There are some people that like to try new things, but the majority of people, in my opinion, find brands and products they like and know and trust and keep going back to that because they're looking for that reliable experience. So that's the moment in time that you have to be there for that purchasing product decision.
Got it. And see, that makes a lot of sense because in the similar vein, the next question I want to ask is about how do you overcome those federal hurdles, right? Like right. I'm sure you can talk a lot about this. This could be a whole other webinar as to what you're dealing with federal, regulation. So how do you deal with having all of those within like marketing or within distribution with like federal versus state dynamics? Would love to hear about that.
So for me personally, my brand is unique among the playing field because I am a person who can speak to the brand and who created these products, and the name Jane West, every interview, every mention, every product, everything, that name keeps getting reinforced and reinforced. Now, that's why I stand out. That's why I have like such wide-ranging global SEO of people who know the Jane West brand is an all-encompassing cannabis brand. Now, I'm guessing the people who ask this question are looking to start a cannabis brand, like a brownie company, a gummy company, a tincture, or CBD something. And when it comes to standing out in that realm, it is challenging, extremely challenging. I would, like I said earlier, not even try to play the system and try to work around it. I would start locally at where you're actually imagine where the customers are purchasing your products and try to stand out at that moment in time because that's where it's going to really matter. You have to have a thick skin, and a lot of the people, even some of the most successful people that I know in the cannabis space right now, say that if they ever knew how hard it would be, now that they're in it, they may have never started. Because the biggest issues with what you bring up, changing regulations, changing advertising, accounts getting shut down, is that there's no algorithm to it. There's no playbook. There's no like, oh, I know this is why this occurred, or I know what my ROI was, or I know how many clicks I got. Like, it's very challenging to do. So my recommendation would be to stay newsworthy, but that's challenging as well. That's what I've done to succeed.
Yeah.
And really, when it comes to THC-infused products, like for the same reason we started Women Grow on a local level, these are local companies who have licenses to produce a product that can be sold in local dispensaries through a regulated system. And so your goal, although it's easy to be like, we make the products for everyone, it's for everyone and all the people will want it. You have to be super targeted and be like, well, no, we make cannabis products for people in, Illinois, because we're an Illinois company. In fact, we make products for this group of people there, and those are our target audience, and really go for that. That's the brands that I've seen be the most successful have done that. And my second biggest recommendation would be to not change your brand. So a lot of people, even though they're in a very nascent stage of building their business, they change their product, they change their brand, they change look and feel. And it may be the response to what the feedback they're getting from customers or budtenders, but at the same time, that's no different than just having a whole new brand. And in flooded markets where there's lots of cannabis companies, you just, in my opinion, put yourself back to square one. And so when you decide that logo, when you decide that color, when you decide that name, I would live with it, even if you have some things you want to tweak, because going back and changing it, even though to you feel like, oh, we mixed it up and this was needed and this was that, nobody even knew who you were to begin with. Now you're back to zero. So remember that dispensary experience is where you're going to meet the customer, and you should come to market with a strong product and stick with it.
I